Hey AI, how many hours of practice does it take to reach mastery on average? The answer? The most famous estimate for reaching mastery is 10,000 hours, often called the 10,000 hour rule. However, this number is widely debated and often considered an oversimplification of a much more complex process. The 10,000 hour rule, popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers, suggests that this amount of dedicated practice is required to achieve world-class expertise in a field, like a professional violinist or a chess grandmaster. And the origins of that is that the average was derived from a 1993 study of elite violinists at a German music academy. And with that, welcome to the House Einstein podcast. This is House Einstein podcast 100. And with me is Hamish Crabb. I'm Osman, your host. We haven't done this in about a month because we've been traveling and having other things happen. But this is a special celebratory edition of the House Einstein podcast. As Hamish said just before we started, he didn't think we would get here.
No, I'm surprised we're still alive, Osman. 416.6 days, 10,000 hours. I can see pilots getting there really quickly. But otherwise, you've really got to be on the nose nonstop.
I mean, pilots aren't practicing the whole time. But for sure, pilots, more experienced pilots are better than less experienced pilots.
I mean, if you're flying, you're practicing, right? You practice medicine. Many
of these podcasts are 2 hours long. That's true. Mm-hmm. I'm not arguing with you. 100%. Yeah. I don't like that they call it practicing. But that's what they call it. They practice law, they practice medicine. And I guess we practice podcasting in addition to practicing in serving our clients, buying and selling real estate. Really, that's mostly what we do. But the podcast is something that we share with the world because it's fun, it's interesting, and hopefully it is entertaining because that is the actual mission of the House Einstein podcast. Our attorneys say don't make any real estate decisions on the basis of anything you hear in this podcast. And if you do, don't sue us because we told you not to go do that. And this podcast is absolutely entertainment. No other major life decisions should be made on what you hear in this show. And the reason why I brought up the 10,000 hours is, we've done 100 podcasts. Most of our podcasts are about 2 hours long. Some of them maybe more. They're coming up, maybe an hour and a half. I think about
we've hit 2 hours, 40 minutes in some of them or something like that.
So let's call it an hour and a half. So we've got a lot of work to do to get to 10,000 hours, but I was curious to see how well that estimate stood up. So I asked AI, and in this case, this is Gemini, whatever the current version of Gemini is, Gemini something Pro 4.1 maybe. Anyway, I also asked it to calculate how many hours Oprah Winfrey has put into content production, including the original Oprah Winfrey Show and all of the other things she has done in her professional career. And the reason it came to me to ask about Oprah is because, quite frankly, whatever you think about her politics, she's a master at interviewing, at presenting. She is so charismatic and she goes down so many interesting rabbit holes and allows her guests to speak and really gets great information out of them. And of course, we all know she's had some controversial guests over the years, but I still admire her and have really enjoyed her work throughout my probably teenage years when I first saw Oprah, maybe even elementary school when I first saw Oprah Winfrey. But I asked AI to calculate it, including any podcasts and audiobooks, and the time she probably has spent behind the scenes, because every hour of airtime, according to Gemini, is really a good multiplier, is 2.5 hours of actual recording time. And so on the basis of that, Gemini estimates that her entire body of work, including podcasts and audiobooks, and time actively in front of a camera or on a microphone for production, is over 11,900. So she clearly has crossed that 10,000 barrier.
Got there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now she's ready to retire.
Well, I think she has retired. We're at 150 maybe of actual airtime on the podcast, plus all the other time we have spent in front of a camera, behind a camera.
That multiplier rings true.
and 20 plus years of practicing real estate, and before real estate working in the investment banking world, typically on the research side, but also as an associate with a large family office here in Denver. Lots and lots of time talking about investments, analyzing investments, assets of all kinds, and then the last 20 years pretty much focused on real estate exclusively. And that's the backdrop for the House Einstein expertise. And Hamish, your time too, very valuable. Yeah. All the time you've put in, all the time with clients, showing property, writing contracts, negotiating deals. It takes. We don't often acknowledge expertise. Like, I feel like it's a little grandstanding. Like we don't.
It is. Yeah. It feels that way.
It's grandstanding, yeah. But we're not trying to look sexy in front of a fancy car or a fancy house, or trying to demonstrate how fancy our shoes are or our clothing is as a measure of success. It's longevity and expertise demonstrated, hopefully in some ways, by sharing this podcast with the world. So if you're still listening, thank you for joining us at the House Einstein podcast. We deeply appreciate the new clients that have come to us in our brokerage, as well as just regular listeners that are just curious about what happens in the real estate world and how to think about real estate deals, including many agents have reached out and told us they really are enjoying the podcast. So thank you for joining us once again. And the core topic of this week, so let me walk you through our topics, our table of contents, if you will. We're going to be talking about our recent team retreat. That is our core topic, and it does dive into reflecting on these 100 episodes for what works and what doesn't work, because that did come up in the retreat as well. Not everyone in our company is in the podcasting world, but some have dabbled in it, and certainly content creation. It's not just the podcast, but all the content that we've created in the last, the brokerage was founded in 2013, so 12 years of being out there in the world. And then before that, of course, but that's just me. So reflecting on the 100 episodes of the pod, as well as the history of the brokerage and what happened on our team retreat, why we take team retreats, and what did we learn from that experience. That's our core table topic. So if you want to look behind the kimono, are we allowed to say that? Look behind the curtain. Look
the paper screen.
See, some of these things I have to unlearn from the banking world, as you don't say that anymore. Maybe behind the curtain would be more appropriate. If you wanted to look behind the curtain,
that's
this
the
may
Wizard
give
of Oz, right? Behind the curtain.
Behind the curtain is the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That might be accepted. I think that's okay.
I think so. Anyhow, sorry.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's our closing table topic. That's our core topic for this podcast. We're also going to be doing our usual Tales from the Trenches segment, and this week we're going to talk about buyer's remorse, and a situation that often occurs and just occurred to me and my clients, with regret for not pulling the trigger on probably the best property we've seen in a year, and the agent's dilemma in how hard do you push when you realize that they might be making a mistake, and you don't want to be that pushy agent that really shoves them into a property, so to speak, psychologically. Why we don't do that. And you kind of have to balance the need to be an advisor with when you see somebody clearly hesitating and you think they're making a mistake, right? If you push and they later regret it, it damages your relationship. So you have to think very carefully whether or not to push. So that's our Tales from the Trench. We're going to talk about that situation. And, Hamish, I'm going to move what I wrote here into the shameless self-promotion. So I'll just talk about shameless self-promotion right now. We've got a particular deal, that a particular hunt that is a little outside of our typical, and I want to share that with you. And then we will be talking about market conditions, I guess, Hamish. You put that in here, so I assume you're... Oh, we never did that analysis, actually.
No. It's going to be live and no pressure.
We're going to do... Yeah, no pressure. That's a tricky one, because we were going to talk about seasoned listings. What's happening in the market with respect to seasoned listings? And the really tricky part of that, Hamish, is that this is not a click-a-button analysis, right? Mm-hmm. If we're going to do that, I really need to dump all the listings into a spreadsheet and then do a very detailed analysis. So I think instead of talking about just seasoned listings, we're going to cover November's data, because today is December 10th when we're recording this podcast. And at this point, we're past Thanksgiving. There's been plenty of days for even the laziest of agents to update the MLS. And the data on the MLS should now be accurate. So I think we can walk through City of Boulder detached market conditions, and maybe we could talk about attach to, because we're getting ready to list one. So I think that's important. So that'll be our market conditions segment. And then we've got 5 listings to talk about these are closings, 5 closings, sales of the week, and the lessons that have been learned from those sales of the week. And then we've got a couple of items in the news, in particular the CU economic outlook for Colorado, and then the dark horse demolition that has been apparently accelerated.
Accelerated, that's the word, yeah.
Possibly accelerated. The dark horse is a dive bar, historic, well-loved dive bar here in Boulder, and it's about to be redeveloped as part of Williams Village with a lot of student housing, and that demo has been accelerated. So we're going to be talking about that. And then we've got our usual carve-outs. Hamish, you're talking about fostering creativity and a balance of hobbies.
That's my LinkedIn title for it, yep.
What does that mean?
You know, like people when they post on LinkedIn, they very much grandstand their ideas and themselves. So that's like a very fostering creativity and the balance of hobbies is probably a little bit more intense than it needs to be. But it might raise an eyebrow and keep you listening to the end. So
it totally sounds like AI wrote it. Like, and it also reminds me of like we used to play this game called Buzzword Bingo.
Exactly, it's all buzzwords.
We in grad school we literally made a bingo board for this one marketing professor, or was it an HR professor, and he used so much buzzword nonsense gibberish that we made literally a board for it, boards, fun. And we passed out the board in the beginning of class, and we would play bingo silently while he lectured. That was pretty bad behavior, but that's what
you're paying attention. The game is contingent on paying attention.
You have to pay attention. You're just listening for the buzzwords. I don't know if you ever found out we played buzzword bingo. It was kind of a hidden game among not the entire class. It was like 12 of the, I don't know, cool kids, if you will.
Yeah.
And then, yep.
What's yours?
Sorry. Mine, okay, so that's what I was just about to say. Mine is I'm going to be talking about vintage lenses and mirrorless cameras, which I think I've talked about before, but I also have recently pulled them back out again, these old Nikon lenses, and mounted them up to a modern mirrorless camera, 2 different modern mirrorless cameras, full frame cameras to try to, well, we'll get there. We'll tell you all about that. If that interests you, that's my carve-out.
Yeah. I think right before we jump in full, any of the links, subjects, and things that we discussed, they're all in the description. I've got time codes in there. It should be really easy to navigate if you're tuning in and out. And should we roll the sponsor spot?
This podcast is sponsored by House Einstein. We serve buyers and sellers in Colorado, focusing on Boulder, Denver, and several mountain resort towns, including Breckenridge and Winter Park. Our mission is simple: help you make a smarter real estate decision. You can learn more at houseeinstein.com or our YouTube channel, where you'll find videos on neighborhoods, specific listings, and much, much more.
Okay, let's talk about our team retreat. Hamish, how was it? Where'd we go? Fill me in.
Yeah, so this was my 4th team retreat, and I mean, unintuitively, last year we went to New Zealand, and this team retreat for me was the best. This year's team retreat.
Oh, it's unintuitive that you would have expected that the New Zealand one would have been more fun for you as a half New Zealander.
Exactly. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed this team retreat. We went to Mexico City. It was a awesome 4.5-hour flight for Sophie and I think Ian too. Yeah, Ian was on the plane. And we both got, empty middle seats and everything. So travel was sweet. Mexico City being a relatively foodie area, and I think the whole team being foodies, we were able to gorge. Also, I don't want to recap the whole thing without you jumping in, but no, it was fantastic. The pace and general kind of vibe, if you will, of the team retreat was very relaxed, very intentional, and rather reflective. It was there wasn't pressure to have anything figured out, but it was great. The kind of feeling was that we were able to discuss and learn together, if that tracks, because we talked about, what worked, what didn't work, what would we want more of, less of, and we weren't even. I mean, we were fairly structured in that too, but it was like, we'd bring up, okay, this, and this. How do you guys feel about that? And yeah, I'm going to talk myself into circles here, Oz, but it was really nice. It was an open form of conversation, and we were able to kind of come to conclusions together as a team.
Have you been part of a company that does retreats before?
No.
Okay. How about workshops or conferences?
Negative.
Have you gone to conferences? No. Okay. Yep. Well, so it's super interesting for me because in the first few years that we did these retreats, they were much more structured. And now I think we've kind of fallen into a pattern that allows maximum benefit with maximum flexibility. And having worked in other industries and experienced what constitutes a company retreat, as well as attending workshops and attending conferences in a couple of different industries, from telecom companies to commercial aircraft trading conferences.
I've got questions about that.
And then a full company. Okay, well, we'll come back to that. But to full company retreats, mostly, and then of course what I see is other agents going on conferences for large brokerages. Like Remax has one, Keller has one, Compass definitely has one. People love to post their photos, like a selfie with Robert Refkin or the founder guy. For like they love to post that photo with that guy. And I've seen like half the agents in town have a selfie. Like the guy must line them up. And so there's some sort of celebrity culture around him that people like to post. And I often wonder, since I don't go to those big brokerage conferences, what it looks like to me is a big junket, right? Like it's a big party. And there's a lot of rah-rah, we're amazing, look at us, let's get great live music, let's get a couple of really well-known public speakers, to really ramp us up. And then let's make sure we get agents to recommit to the brand, right? Like it's sort of like a religious revival under a big tent. Like there's
revival, I think, is the right kind of.
That's the vibe I've always gotten.
Yeah.
Just looking at the content from other brokerages, but outside of the real estate industry, some of the conferences were really useful. Like the aircraft trading one was a really unique one. It's called ISTAT. I don't know. You can look it up. Institutional Society of Transportation Aircraft Traders, maybe, I think is it's been a long time since I've gone to an ISTAT conference, but they had a series of really educational workshops, and then they had deals would happen there. That's really why people went, including most of my team. They were there to meet high level executives from Airbus and Boeing, as well as the airlines, to work on deals together, like to put together deals. Yeah. And people like to do business with people they like. So there's a lot of socializing. There's a lot of fancy dinners. There's a lot of drinking. And people did a lot of business. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of deals were happening at these conferences. So they were effective from that perspective. And they were not a revival style conference. And then I've been to others that were sort of just a lot of vendors pitching you stuff. Like you go to the conference. Yeah, it's like this giant conference center, and people have paid money. Fair. Yeah, like to be vendors, and you're walking around and you're constantly being pitched something or other, and supposedly people are networking, but people that usually attend these things are not necessarily, like, my experience is that they're not particularly great networkers. Like, it's a lot of, here, have my business card, and you'll never call this person again because there's no connection. This person just shoved their business card in your hand, and you're like, why? Mm-hmm. Okay, somebody told you that you need to go. Yeah,
useless swag. Yeah.
If you want a bunch of junk, consumerist junk, then those conferences are great for that. But our team retreat is something really quite different, and we are a boutique brokerage. There's currently only 4 of us. At one point, we were up to 6, and we've been very comfortable with 4. And what we do in these brokerages, what we do in these events is we come up with a discussion list of what are the most important things we need to talk about. And they're very forward-looking. Like, what does next year's business environment look like? How do we use our CRM better? How do we have a better follow-up system for our past clients that doesn't make them feel like they're being sold to? How do we
us feeling like we're selling to them?
Or us feeling like we're pushing a sales product on like it non-consensually on people. Like, how do we actually communicate and connect with our sphere, our past clients, as well as our prospective clients in ways that feel authentic and meaningful, and are authentic and meaningful, aren't just like some generic thing that got sold to us. And I feel like that's what a lot of agents do. They send out very generic marketing after closing, and it feels kind of icky, right? I've even had an agent send out marketing to my clients after closing, and then they send me a note saying, I can't believe this guy is still marketing to us. Yeah. All we did was attend closing. Like, he's not our agent, yet he has made that decision that he's going to push so hard that he's going to sell to everybody. I saw this piece today, Hamish, as a side note, and it was talking about these follow-up systems. Mm-hmm. And it basically said everything else is secondary to lead gen. Lead gen is the engine of the business, and everything else is secondary. And you know what's kind of funny is most agents don't think like that. And inauthentic, icky lead gen is not a business I want to be in. So serving our clients really, really well and making sure that we act as fiduciaries, act as advisors, and then the piece that is kind of missing is really good follow-up with our clients after closing. And then the way people find us is through things like this podcast, but it's sort of opted in, right? Like they're not being they're not getting junk mail that they immediately throw out. They're not getting a gift box full of cheap things that don't reflect the relationship at all. They're just, more House Einstein swag. Like that doesn't really, it doesn't move the needle. And in fact, if it does move the needle, it moves it negatively. So we talk about
it's just
that.
not memorable. All these things, yeah.
We talk about the necessity of growth in our business practice, how we would like more people on the team, but because we would like a deeper bench, that would allow for possibly more travel. That would also allow for the footprint to expand. Like right now, we don't have a particularly great presence in Longmont, for example, and we also really create an archetype for the type of agent that we really would like to see join. And in this particular retreat, we spent quite a bit of time talking about an agent that would like to join our brokerage that we unfortunately had to decline after a lengthy process and a lot of self-reflection. What I learned a few years ago, this is before you joined, Hamish, in fact, you were here because of this event. We had a larger company that of people that didn't get... Mr. Balls is making an appearance, Hamish. He's telling me to keep the story short, I think.
I guess so, but buddy.
But so we had 6 people. We had 6 people on the team at the time, and clearly there was a misalignment of values and belief in the brand and the mission, and that became evident throughout the course of working with these other people. And they've gone on to other places, and I hope they're really happy. But the trauma of that disconnect and all that time trying to put a round peg into a square hole just was not a useful experience. And so now I very much practice 2 principles when it comes to the company, and one is hire slow, right? Really want to get
fast.
And fire. That's true, Hamish. So watch out. But yeah, hire slow, fire fast, and also.
Is this your very best husband?
I'll tell that story another time. And then also make sure that there's buy-in, because we're such a small boutique and we work so closely with one another that one person who doesn't really fit well with the team dynamic could really throw us. And so if we were 20 people, adding 1 is irrelevant. But as a team of 4, adding 1 has a huge impact to how we operate. And we are still looking, and that the right person, if they're listening to this podcast, you're certainly welcome to chat with me. But it's a long process to onboard. For us to even get to the yes stage is like a 2-month process, and we're now December. So this is something that really most agents would begin midsummer and have an answer by December on whether it's a good fit or not, because you have to get new signs, you have to announce the brokerage transition, change websites, change email addresses, update your CRM, all of the things that are required in putting on a different jacket. So anyway, that was that. We spent a lot of time on that, and it was a difficult process, and it wasn't easy on us, and I'm sure it wasn't easy on the person that wanted to join. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I was just gonna back that. It was not an easy decision to make.
So the purpose of the team retreat, though, is that you really need to step away from your day-to-day to have perspective. It's very difficult for us to be in the middle of the factory that helps buyers and sellers do real estate deals successfully, step back and look at the big picture of what's happening in our market, what's happening with AI, what's happening with interest rates. Are we going to see another year like this year, next year? And if so, how do we serve our clients in a way that is really powerful, is really successful in terms of what their needs are? How do we advise people in a market that appears to be gaining even more inventory as we turn into next year, but also could see lower rates, but may not see lower rates because of how our government treats that mid-range, right? That mid-range treasury, that 10-year. It could be rates may not go down much at all. They dropped about 0.5% this year over the last 12 months, but that could be it. So we shall see.
Yeah, like barely anything. It's I've thought about it because I think we thought or considered retreats locally as well. And I mean, these retreats too, we're not like going and just trying to find the most luxurious place and living in luxury, you know. We're more kind of, it is the function of the retreat and the setting to be able to just have those conversations and to think, to have a thoughtful consideration about the year to come and go forward. Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited about the year to come, and the choice of the retreat is carefully considered. We typically don't go to New Zealand. It was quite coincidental that we went there.
Super.
Two of the people on the team were already there, and so that it made a lot of sense for us to just move the retreat there. But typically we like to stay close to the same time zone and a direct flight. That way we can get in and out of pocket quickly, and if something it needs our attention, we can deal with it on the same time zone. Because if you're 4 or 5 hours off time zone, it becomes really difficult to keep deals happening. And also, well, to deal with things that come up in a transaction. And then also, time of year really matters, because the fourth quarter, typically this time of year, is a time of year that is relatively slower paced. We're helping a couple of sellers prepare to get their listings on market in the beginning of the year. That's not as frenzied as, hey, we're shopping and we have 2 months to figure it out. And most of our buyers that we're working with are also extremely patient. They know that there's very little on the market right now. So November and December and into maybe the second week of January are typically the best time of year for agents to travel and be out of pocket.
Yeah, which actually coincides pretty nice with the holiday season, come to think of it, you know? Though the stereotype of agents on the phone during Christmas dinner are still very present.
Well, the stereotype that's true is go out of town if you want something to happen. So if you've been bored and
we all
nothing's happening,
experience that, I think, over the retreat.
as soon as you get on a flight, like the phone starts ringing, emails start bouncing, the universe is like, oh, you thought you were going on vacation. Well, let's make some stuff happen for you.
Yeah. Let's make it difficult to enjoy it, but no.
So let's talk about the podcast, Hamish. Let's talk about 100 episodes. What has that been
really
like
quick
on your... Oh, okay.
I don't think we stated the foodiness quite enough, but fantastic tacos, really delightful, delicious restaurants, and yummy morning cafes. I myself learned that the tap water in Mexico is not drinkable. I didn't learn it the hard way. But yeah, that was a new one, and that's as much as I'll share on that front.
I think you've been to Mexico before. I think you just forgot.
I know, we went to Puerto Vallarta, but yeah, I guess I forgot or something.
Well, luckily it passed through the team pretty quickly. I never got sick. And and the water, I was just drinking the filtered water for the first 24 hours from the sink, and it was a one-stage filter. I was fine. But I think
that filter was fine. I drank that for the whole trip.
The food was amazing, and I had never been to Mexico City. The culture, the history, the amazing food, and it felt very clean and very safe. So I thought it was great. The air quality, not great. I don't think I would live in Mexico City, but for a visit, well, definitely we're going to, well, maybe not as a company, but my wife and I are definitely going to be back. And we could do closer retreats. So I've been thinking about maybe Phoenix next year, or Scottsdale, or San Diego, or somewhere that's in New Mexico. I mean, I prefer things that are a little bit more, I don't know, not bougie, right? Like I'm quite happy in experiencing something really outdoorsy and skipping the restaurant scene and the museums. But I
do like the museums, but
the museum was cool. The museum was cool, but it's not really, it's not really a necessity, but it's cool. So obviously I'm not the only one that makes these decisions. And we had a great retreat. And now I think we're firing on all cylinders for next year, which is exciting. Particularly some of the content ideas we discussed excite me. And also the team just really gelled. Right? Like, it's not just a group of people that work together. We're clearly really close friends. And that matters when you spend most of your time working with the same people, right? You got to kind of like each other. Otherwise, I don't know, life is too short, right? Like, I also need to love your work, which I do, and I think you do too, Hamish. And
yes.
I believe everyone on the team loves their work. So that also makes a big difference in the happiness scale. And speaking of...
We were just very, very cohesive on that trip, and the conversation really flowed, and we hit topics that we handled very, very well. And I think all, like, just if anything, like, respect for each other increased, and kind of compassion and understanding of each other increased. So, like, it was just so beneficial, I think, from a team building perspective.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And now we're celebrating our 100th podcast episode. So what has that been like for you? 100 podcasts, Hamish.
Well, we do these once a week, give or take. So the writing was on the wall. We would hit 100 podcasts this year. So it's good. I'm really stoked with it. The growth and seeing the curve, like, I have a background in YouTube, being a YouTuber, and so I've seen and tracked a lot of competition, including the channel that I was managing at the time, and seeing kind of how the growth curve works on that. And I don't think I have seen quite enough data or analytics to make like a specific call on it, but from everything that I can tell on our metrics and across our the podcast is hosted on every site that will hold it, all of those metrics, we are beginning to gain a decent amount of traction. The consistency that we have is very good, and I think the planning, the show notes and everything are really starting to get there.
Hey,
or you mean really personally?
Yeah, like, how's it been I appreciate that market report on what's happening, but I'm really curious, how's it been for you? I'd
say, man, I feel like I started hitting my stride on it. I don't think it's that late, but like maybe like podcast 70 or a little bit after that, because now we're just able to chat and gel. And beforehand I was like worried about like butting in or what that would look like, in post and everything. But at this rate, I think as we're getting to the point where we're riffing, it's pretty dang natural, and it's like we'll put a topic on there and we'll be able to make it work, or if it doesn't work, we'll still be able to make it work. And our compatibility and podcast presence has, I think, gotten only more natural. So overall, I'm excited to record the podcasts, and it's a good feeling to get them published every Friday is the standing goal.
It's a standing orders is to record on Wednesday, out the door Friday. And from my end, I feel like I've learned to talk a little less and create more space for you to share your perspectives. You're also getting a lot more experience in real estate as the years go on, so your perspective is more informed on these topics, right? So year one, your podcast, the first podcast, right? Like you really are.
I didn't feel like I had a leg to stand on. Yeah.
Yeah, and now you've helped so many clients in the process and seen so many properties that and have dealt with so many contractual issues or seen us deal with them, that you have some value add. So that's really nice to see. And also you feel more comfortable interrupting me, because if you don't, I'm just going to keep talking. And right,
I learned that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of funny because I have this flashback to a date, or this woman I was dating briefly in college, who we had a mutual friend, and the attraction was just physical. I was 20 years old or 19. and really it was just a physical relationship. I didn't really, there was no emotional stuff going on, but this mutual friend came to me one day and she said, "Yo, what's up?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And I can't remember this woman's name, so we'll skip the name. But she said, "Yeah, so-and-so tells me that you're really quiet."
You?
And then she stops talking. She says, "You're really quiet." And she just looks at me, and I'm like, "Yeah, there ain't much going on between us besides that physical relationship. Like, there was nothing to talk about. It was just, it was just like, I just couldn't have a conversation with this." Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that
I know what you mean.
At
least on the dating side. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you realize you can't actually have a conversation about anything meaningful. Just stop talking was used to be my MO. But on a podcast, of course, I can't have dead air, so we're talking. But I do appreciate that you share your perspectives, and your points of view are valid, and you see a lot of deals. So, and you're also part of every deal I do, almost every deal. So that's really important.
Yeah.
And so what works is good dialogue in this podcast, and what doesn't work is just the Osmond show. So I think it's important for you to continue to butt in if I'm not creating space, Hamish.
Can do. And yeah, getting better and better at it too. So yeah.
I think what also works, and listeners, you can please let us know if this works for you, but the inside stories that we have to embargo for a certain period of time, because if we told them in real time, it would be really obvious what we're talking about by the agents and their clients involved. But by delaying it 3 to 6 months, we can tell the seedier side of this business, the shadier things that happen in this business, because it doesn't affect the current transaction. And I mean, just as a side story on seediness, right? That story about mold that we did a couple of weeks ago, that agent just texted me.
No kidding.
And said, and not about the story. She has not listened. I don't think she listens to this content, but she was marketing that the price has been reduced by 50 or 100 grand. It's the perfect fixer upper. And I wrote her back and I'm like, it's not the perfect fixer upper for our clients, because there is visible and obvious signs of mold damage, likely behind the drywall, likely involving rotted structural elements. There's other signs of structural failure. This property probably needs to be completely deconstructed, and it's not a fixer-upper. But I thank you for reaching out. And she wrote back, "You're welcome."
Hey, that's how I would respond the same way.
Well, what else? I mean,
yeah.
She's like putting blinders. I don't think I would take this listing unless we fully disclosed the property has mold damage.
Unless the seller was realistic to the challenge.
The dirt value was 800. Because of these incredible views, maybe it's worth 9. And make an offer. We need to get it sold. And what's going to happen is this is going to continue to go down and down until a bottom feeder offers a low ball on this and tries to get it for 500 and might, because at some point the seller is just going to get so fed up that $500,000 is better than 0, right? Mm-hmm. Like, especially if they're elderly, or I hate to make that sound ageist, but if you're 70 and you're looking down the barrel of maybe 20 more years if you're lucky, that $500,000 in your pocket you could spend now while you're healthy, versus 2 more years, maybe you wait for that $500,000. It's worth even less in an inflationary environment that we're probably moving into. So take the money and run at some point.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. 500 would be insane. We'll watch the space, and maybe it becomes the sale of the week when it's closed.
Maybe it will. It's one of these deals where I feel bad for the seller, and I can see the game that I think the listing agent's playing. And the game is, we'll take the listing, we won't push back on your inflated expectation and value. In fact, we're gonna push into it. But I need a long listing agreement just in case it doesn't sell. I need at least a year, if not 2. And then after 6 months, I'm gonna push you really hard to cut that price. But until then, hey, we're in the off season, right? So you can enjoy your fantasy that it's worth this really high price. But toward the end of the off season, I'm gonna push you hard to be more reasonable. Because we were like, but in the beginning of the relationship, I'm all about placating your ego and telling you how smart and good looking you are, so I get the listing. and I'll inflate the value so I appeal to your greed and
Then
get the
we'll
listing.
have the truth come out. Yeah.
And then I know the truth that the property it needs to be demolished, and frankly, it's a health hazard. Like, it's obvious. She knew that,
Yeah.
and she's pretending to market
So
the home.
good that I'm cutting this reel right now too.
Okay.
It's
Well, you
just
can
the
include
most
it.
simple.
We haven't mentioned. We have
Yeah.
not mentioned the address. I've not mentioned the address. Oh, you're cutting the reel right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
This could be a follow up. I get it. You're editing
Right.
it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So
Go for it.
I was going to say, so what works and what doesn't work? I think the telling stories works about what's actually going on in behind the curtain, and what doesn't work is just me talking the whole time. I'm trying to do less of that, believe it or not. And
You
with the
are
future-
still like the main guy, the host and everything. So you do a good job with that. That does work.
well. All right, I appreciate
Yeah.
that, but
I
I
take
also
the Jamie position to an extent.
You do have the Jamie position if this was the Joe Rogan podcast, but it's not the Joe Rogan podcast. And we hopefully, actually, what's funny is most of the listeners, from the data I see on my social media, most of my followers and listeners are women, not men. So
Oh, yeah.
I definitely want to make it clear that while I occasionally listen to Joe Rogan, I'm not a Joe Rogan like fanboy at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot
They're
to
for
learn
the
from
guests,
him.
not for the guy. Yeah.
I do appreciate that he takes the position of being a dumb comedian and says it
Wow.
repeatedly.
Yeah.
He says it all the time. I'm a dumb comedian. What the hell do I know? But people believe he's an authority despite saying that over and over again.
It's the platform of podcasts.
I guess.
It creates an authority kind of thing. Is my theory, at least. Yeah.
Does it? Huh.
Yeah.
Well, so here's
Here
what
we
the
are
future,
on a
here's what
podcast.
I would like the future to look like. I would like to have more guests. And about once a month now, I'm getting somebody reaching out to me who has hired a publicist. And it's the publicist that says, hey, we would really like to have so-and-so on your podcast. They are really entertaining, and they sell whatever. Like, they sell... it might as well be they might as well be shower curtain rings, right?
Gas
Like, they sell
station
something.
pills. Yeah.
Yeah, they sell something that's totally offline of what we do, and clearly this person is just paid to get them on podcasts, and they don't fit our brand. They don't fit. So our brand mission is what I'm saying. Like, they don't actually care about helping people be smart about real estate, and they aren't even local, right? So there's nothing local about them, and they don't care about what we care about. And if you're not one of those two things, then how do I get you on the pod? Although I suppose if they're, I guess it would be interesting to get somebody that is on the other side of that debate, right? Like somebody that doesn't care about helping people be smart about real estate decisions, that just cares about volume. And there are agents out there, and you'll see them like talking about their business on Reddit, where they have done like 100 transactions in a year. And that means insane volume, right? Like one person doing 100 transactions means they're driving and not looking at where they're going. They've got this thing on full throttle, and they're flying blind or driving blind, and passengers are jumping out of the bus, or whatever analogy you want, as the bus is on fire, because they can't pay that much attention to each of these people when you have 100 transactions in a year. It's just, even with a team, they're not getting the service quality.
Yeah, I wonder. Reddit, you can hide behind your handle. I wonder who wants to come on camera, but if we can get them, that'd be fun.
I mean, they used to do these interviews on...
We could blur their face.
where they blurred their faces and changed their voices. It was so absurd. But
That's
I remember
easy. We could do that.
we could easily do it. But I also... It would be funny to have somebody on for 10 minutes that was like an insider revealing a bunch of nonsense. But it also is so cheesy. I kind of feel like I don't want to bring our level of quality down just for cheese.
I know. If we're like big and we have a very sustained following, it'd be a lot of fun to bring that in.
Yeah, like home inspector reveals the truth about agent kickbacks, which
Have you seen the...
don't exist for me, by the way. But I suppose there are agents that grease the palm of their inspector. It's something that would not surprise me. It happens. I mean, it used to be that appraisers actually were getting paid off by certain agents, and that they've created systems to prevent that fraud from happening. So it's not like the real estate industry isn't full of shenanigans.
have you seen, it's like Vice, I think they do like interviews with like literal drug dealers and like horrible people, and they give them the most creepy mask in the world. It's like a white like baby mask thing, and it's so unnerving, and it's, I mean, it gets clicks. It makes sense why they're doing it, but yeah, maybe we have a horrendous mask we give our guests. You can hide behind anonymity. And
that's pretty funny. Yeah. I love it. That's pretty funny.
I'll send you a picture of that. Yeah.
I don't know who you would want. Like, are we inviting city council members? Like, who are we inviting? Former city council member? Tell us what really happens behind the scenes at city council.
That'd be a cool one.
Here's this bunny mask. No one will recognize you.
Furry mask.
Okay, so I think that would be nice to occasionally have guests, maybe once a month. I think we stick with the weekly format. It seems to be successful, and it matches up pretty well with our business. The only exception is if we're traveling or we're too busy with clients, and we just can't get it done. Or maybe we're ill, right? Like there's a health illness or family emergencies, that sort of stuff. But it feels like the first 100 are now under our belt, and the next 100 are what remain.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're both like the next Oprah Winfrey's in 20 years.
It's going to come naturally. Don't even sweat it. In-person podcasts were a lot of fun. Some good feedback on that. Was stoked to see it. And those will return, I think. I learned a lot as far as audio goes. And I made it work, but there's still some to do. So that's my final piece on that.
Well, I thought the camera quality was way better because, of course, they're real cameras versus these little, webcam things. But the audio seemed okay. I mean, I don't really listen to the pods, so maybe you can share the feedback with me after and let me know what
it was exactly your worry. My mic picked you up, and then I had to do a whole bunch of ducking, and I can't even remember half the stuff I did, but we got it mostly there. Yeah. Noise gates, all sorts.
I notice it even now, Hamish. Sometimes your body's closer to your mic, and I can hear you way more clearly. And sometimes you move away and you suddenly go to soft voice. And like professional actors and talent, they know to get close to the mic, and they've been told so many times, keep your face close to the mic. That's what they do.
Part of that now too is our podcast software that we're using now auto balances the volume, and so it'll make you quieter or louder, and I haven't really put a rhyme or reason. If there's a lot of silence between when I speak, it'll jack up the volume and then lower it. So this monitoring system that we've got right now isn't really true to how it gets recorded, though yes, like I come over here, you're going to hear the difference. But can there's another layer now of variance. I haven't even seen the setting telling me that they're doing it.
Okay. All right.
Which is
well, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. Let's move on, Hamish, because I don't think our audience wants to hear more of the technical side of podcasting. Let's talk about Tales from the Trenches and the dreaded buyer's remorse. So most of the time when you hear the word buyer's remorse, you think of somebody who has put a property under contract and regrets it and wants to get out. Or maybe they've gone all the way through closing, and shortly after closing, they realize they made a mistake. And maybe their agent lied about something. Maybe the seller lied about something. Maybe they just weren't ready, and suddenly they're looking at a big ticket monthly payment, or they paid cash for something that wasn't worth what they thought it was due to X, Y, or Z reasons. That's usually what people think of with buyer's remorse. And what I'm talking about is prospective buyer's remorse. And it's a really unique phenomenon. I've never heard anyone else talk about it, but it just happened to our buyers last week while we were at this retreat, and I could see it coming. So this is the story. This is the scenario that you've been looking at homes for a while, but maybe you haven't quite seen enough. And maybe your initial guess on this property is, maybe it's overpriced. We'll just wait, and I'll offer low. No one's jumping on this. And your agent says, it looks like it's a really good property for you guys. I haven't seen one that good in a while. Are you sure you're going to want to let this one go? No, we're just going to let it go. We're going to let it go. And they say, all right, okay. And then the property goes under contract. The MLS status changes, and like Morrissey wrote a song about, you want the one you can't have. And you might throw in a backup offer which has a low probability of success, but it's too late. So you've gone the whole spectrum from initially saying, I'm not sure I want it, to maybe, all right, I want it if we can negotiate a big discount, to, oh boy, they just cut the price, but I still think it's overpriced. We're not quite ready to pull the trigger, to, oh, I can't have it, so now I really want it. And now I'm really unhappy.
Hindsight, dang, that really was,
That was the right one. And so it's a very interesting position to be in on the agent side, because we see so many properties, and when one seems to check all the boxes, we point out the faults, right? Like, this property was not perfect. It had problems, and we pointed them out. There were aspects of the kitchen finish. There were aspects of its location. But overall, it was the best one we've seen in probably a year for these.
The mechanical room had an interesting thing going on.
There were interesting things happening with this property.
But no deal breakers.
But none of them really looked like... There were also trade-offs. So for every negative, you could point to something that was different and better. And unfortunately, our clients just didn't give us our marching orders, right? Like, we can tee up the ball. And this is a baseball reference, Hamish. You could put the ball on the, on the thing. You can tee up the ball, but that doesn't mean the kid's going to hit it, right? Like, the kid might just start crying and pee their pants. It doesn't mean that the kid's going to hit the ball. And there's nothing you could do about it, right? Like, as the agent, all you can do is be honest about the pros and cons. And sometimes you can push a little bit. So when you see people being a little hesitant, you can encourage to a point. Because if you push too hard psychologically, they resent it. And they think you were trying... You lose trust in the relationship. They think you're trying to manipulate them to get the deal done faster. And as I've told my clients so many times, I'm not in a rush. Our record holder went 2 years, and he's currently our record holder again in terms of hunting for a property. And I'm totally fine with that. To find the right property that matches what you need is what matters to me. And you will not get pressure from me to go faster. But if you ask my honest opinion, I'll tell you I think this is a great property, and you may regret not putting in an offer. But it's your decision, and I'm not going to say it again that way, because it makes me feel like I'm more interested in getting...
at some point,
It makes me feel like I'm more... Like, you may think I'm more interested in getting paid than I'm interested in helping you make a smart decision. So it's a conflict. Not a conflict of interest, but a conflict of values. And a conflict that if you value helping people make smart decisions, you don't push. And if you value their autonomy, right? Like, there's a pacing, and some people need a lot of time, and some people know it's the one the first time they walk in the door, right? Some people need to date a lot of people before they realize that what they're really looking for. That was
actually what they wanted back there,
Right. And it's too late. That person has moved on, and you missed it. But now you know, because sometimes you need to date some bad people to know what a good relationship looks like.
There's
Dating's
when we're
analogy. In the dangerous analogy.
I'm gonna write that down. I just smacked the mic, but 50.
I don't think it was that bad, but you could just mute it for the smack part.
Just that part. But when we're getting ready to write an offer, one of the common ones, kind of the principles that we circle back with on our buyers is, what is the price? Like, we can squabble on, for the sake of it, $100 price difference, offer price difference. But at the end of the day, do you want the house or not? Because you're going to offer what gets the house. And so it's almost like that a couple steps prior in the deal process, right? It's like, I'm looking at this house, it checks all my boxes, but I don't think it's going to move anytime soon. The market's a little bit slow. I'm just going to wait for the price to drop. The risk is exactly what happens. It could go under contract before the price drops, or it actually is a desirable home, and you might have been advised on the fact that it's a pretty good one for the area and it doesn't come around often. But if your MO is to let it sit and marinate on the market, and maybe they drop the price, maybe they don't, that's your risk, is you don't get the house. If you want the house and it checks your boxes, I'd say begin.
I mean, sometimes I'll ask them, Hamish, that, okay, you think it's overpriced. what price do you feel like this is the right house?
Right.
Like, at what price would you buy it at? Because it might be overpriced. Let's go look at the comps. And in this particular case, it wasn't. And I told them that. And I showed them why, right? For the reasons why I don't think this is overpriced. But they felt it was, which is fine. We don't need to agree on that. But the next question is, okay, what price does this make it desirable? Because at the end of the day, the price has to work for the buyer and the seller. Or it doesn't work, right? And so, in fact, at Republic, the investment firm in Denver I worked at, there was a big sign on the wall in the conference room. In the room where people are doing deals, there's a big sign on the wall, and it said, if the deal doesn't work for everyone, the deal doesn't work. And it was a reminder, right, that there's a counterparty to this transaction. And if you can't figure out how to craft a deal that works for everyone, there's no deal. And it's so interesting that people are sometimes scared to make an offer that's low. We're not. Let's begin the negotiation process.
It sets an anchor.
It does set a negotiation anchor to offer low, but you have to. It's also a question of values. Do you value getting the best possible deal more than you value getting the right house for your family? And I can tell you from personal experience, getting the best possible deal and then living in it is not necessarily a comfortable experience. Like, you've got a great deal on a horrible living situation, right? The house it needs tons of work, and you're living in this dustbin full of lead-based paint for 6 months with your family. Is that what you want, but you saved $100,000, right? Like, is that really like worth it to have your family in full PPE for 6 months? Or would you rather get the best house for your family that's turnkey in the best location and maybe feel like you overpaid a little bit for it, but knowing your time value to find the right house and then knowing the amount of interest the right house is going to get means that you really should be thinking in terms of premiums when it's that desirable. And also a question of, where does this fall on the value scale, right? Like, is it, and the ideal value is it's a good deal and it's a great house, but it's a good deal and great house is so unlikely, right? Usually it's horrible house, great deal, great house, crappy deal. It's not like the combo.
That one's so common.
What you want is what everyone wants, right? You want the great house, great deal, and that doesn't exist, right? Like, it's extremely rare unless we negotiate a great deal. So it might have been on the market for a while. Let's try to negotiate a great deal.
And that's
but
possible.
Just sitting on
you got to start negotiating.
You got to start negotiating, and you have to decide it's the right one. Like, it requires a level of emotional commitment. So
really feel for these guys. I know they'll find something, and I do like. I mean, they're a fantastic, very cute family. So I'm stoked.
They are a cute family. They're lovely people. I'm bummed they didn't get the house, and I regret not pushing a little more. I did not know that they would feel this level of regret, and unfortunately it is what it is. There's always another house, okay? So that's also the reality, and the next house will come with a different set of compromises and a different set of pros and cons that you'll have to sift through and decide, is it worth it to you? But likely what happens is this becomes the one that got away, right? And so it will probably either slow down the process more, or it'll really speed it up, because once you've lost out on a house, usually you're more motivated the next time around. But
we see that one often. I mean, shoot, that worked on me.
It did. It works on everyone. It's so trying to avoid human fallacies, right? That I mean, persuasion is one of them, right? Like, social proof is another. All of those things are important benefits your agent can help you think through. But at the end of the day, it's the client's decision. So we will stand by and do what they want us to do.
Okie dokie.
All right.
Shameless.
Let's move on to, actually, we're not doing Shameless. We're going to do market conditions, and then we're going to do sales of the week before we get to Shameless. And Shameless is going to be really short this time because we are already at an hour into the pod, Hamish, and we've got a lot to go.
We've got some boogieing to do.
All right. Are you still listening, listeners? Or we lost everyone?
Wake up. Okay.
Wake up. Or if you're out for a walk, I hope you're having a great day. I will try to, thinking about people listening to this podcast, I have to be careful with these data analyses because I tend to speak quickly, and I feel like you might miss it. So I'll try to hit these in a way that is a little bit more explanatory. And if it's too, hold on, Hamish, if it's too slow, please accept my apologies. It's just I would like to make sure we hit the nuances of some of this data.
There's a book that I've been reading called Made to Stick, and it's about creating ideas that are sticky. And reading statistics is really easy, but like hearing 50% of homes doesn't carry as much weight as one of every two homes, you know? So putting it in like the 20%, one of every 5 homes dropped their price, you know, by like 5% or something like that. But that might need a little bit of prep.
That's a great point. We could also try to do it on the fly. So big picture, this is the slowest time of year. And it will continue to get slower until right after Christmas. There are sometimes listings that come on market this time of year, new listings, not just refreshes. So you should still pay attention. And often those are people that are just slow to have gotten their property on the market, but that doesn't mean they're not motivated. And because they will see very few showings in the first couple of weeks, you might even be able to negotiate a better deal than you otherwise would in, say, mid-January or February. So you should still be paying attention to the market. But we tell our buyers and our sellers that don't expect a lot to happen in December. Like, it's the slowest month of the year. So the data we're looking at is City of Boulder, detached single-family houses. So that excludes townhomes and condos. And last month, this is data ending November, we saw 49 new listings hit the market. That's an increase year over year of 40%. Pretty substantial increase. Now, keep in mind, that's new listings with quotes around them, because if you remove a listing from the MLS and you create a new listing number, the MLS is going to treat it like a new listing. This is called refreshing a listing. Any buyer can see through it in seconds, and yet people still insist on doing it. If you're going to do it, at least do new photography, right? Do something seasonally appropriate photography, new price, new staging. Like, make an effort if you're going to put in a new listing. But sometimes people just feel like, no, I'm just going to refresh the MLS. So some of those are hidden in this data. 49 new ones and 40% more than last year is a substantial number. So that is something to consider. And then the total number of homes for sale is 276. These are single family detached once again. That's an increase of 26.6% year over year. And under contracts, there were 60 pending sales, and that's a decrease of about 5%. Closings. There were 68 closings last month. That's an increase of 15.3% year over year. Not a massive increase, but a bit of an uptick. Days on market, I'm always hesitant to believe because it got so wonky during COVID with property flying off the market with basically no time on market. But median days on market is a little bit better of a statistic than average. And in the City of Boulder last month, the median days on market was 63. So a little over 2 months for the median. And keep in mind, that's for property that closed. That's not for all property. That's for property that closed. So 8.7% below last year. And then the median sale price, and I personally believe this is more reflective of what's on the market and what price point is selling. This is not reflective of values moving up and down.
Or median list price, right? Or any of that.
This is the median sale price,
right.
1.2 or 1.195. So down almost 6%. And price per total square foot, I think this is a better metric. And that was down, the median was down to 509 last month, and that's down 8%. Now, keep in mind that City of Boulder, as the MLS is defining City of Boulder, and not all of Boulder County. And when you actually are in the market looking to buy or sell, your agent should be producing relevant and actionable information specific to what you're trying to buy or what you're trying to sell. That's what really matters, because this sort of 40,000 foot analysis is interesting, but it isn't actionable for a specific buyer or seller. So let me be 100% clear about that. Call your agent, and if they sound like they don't know what they're doing, call me after you fire them. Don't call me if you're still under buyer agency with them, because I can't help you. But if you are not under buyer agency, give me a call. I'm more than happy to talk about the market relative to your specific real estate situation.
Nicely done.
Okay. Much more
Good pace
deliberate
to it too. Yeah.
Well, I've been thinking about this podcast listener who said she listened to us while she's walking, and all I can think was, boy, if I don't explain the data a little slower, it might get missed, particularly if you're not a stats person.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather slow it down a little bit. Like, the cost of that is it's annoying some people that I went that slow, but I feel like the benefit is that it's much more understandable.
Digestible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like some of them, I'd be here with a notepad, like writing down, okay, he said 50% and 40 on market, like, okay, now I see it. So I think it helps.
I mean, what I think is also really interesting to point out is that the data, the analysis that we're seeing in the last couple of weeks from famous people like the chief economist, the CEO of Redfin, talking about an inflection point, the market's transitioning. Like, hello, we've been talking about the market transitioning for 9 months.
That was Sirhan, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not Sirhan. Sirhan is an influencer / entrepreneur. This is the CEO of Redfin, talking about how the market is transitioning. He was on like CNBC or something, and all I could think about was that we have. Yeah, really? I'm so shocked that you're saying what's visible and obvious in the data. At least 6 months ago was visible and obvious, right? If not 9 months to 12 months ago, because inventory has just been going up and sales volume is not keeping pace. Yes, sales have also been going up, but nowhere near as quickly as inventory has gone up. And then the final nail in the coffin was the increase in failed listings, which the industry has now adopted the term delisting, which sort of sounds like the
versus
stock market.
Withdrawn?
Yeah, I mean, withdrawns and expires, they're calling delisting. And honestly, I think calling it a failed listing makes more sense to me than delisting. Delisting in my brain is, we're talking about the equities markets and a company being delisted. Yeah. That's delisting.
Yeah.
This is not anyway, but that's the term the industry has adopted. And last month we saw a huge increase. I did it right before Thanksgiving. The first 2 weeks before Thanksgiving is sort of the pain point, and in most cases more than doubled the number of failed listings that were coming off the market locally compared to a year ago. So maybe that was the final nail in the coffin that woke up some of these famous economists to put their neck on the line and tell everyone what is really obvious and has been obvious for a long time. So now what might happen is the market actually could be starting to transition the other way. Like, I think that it's quite possible if rates drop and the Fed starts injecting liquidity into the economy, that's called quantitative easing, we're going to see assets of all kinds start to inflate. And that includes housing. So we will see what happens. But people need to be able to afford a monthly payment in primary home markets. And in a lot of markets around the country, they can't. So it's sort of this it's sort of a standoff.
They're lockstep linked. Yeah.
The other day, we were watching some news program, and the news whatever person said it's a Mexican standoff. And Leah looked at me and she goes, is that racist? And I'm like, I don't think it's racist, but I'm not going to say
You're
Mexican
asking me?
standoff. Right,
what did you say earlier this podcast?
I'm the wrong person.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, the behind the kimono comment. I'm the wrong person. I'm not politically correct. I don't know the right thing to say. That's your department. If I screw up, I'll apologize. I've got a really, really close friend who's Mexican American. I could ask him, is that racist to call something a Mexican standoff?
And he's like, you're asking me, dude? Like, I'm the spokesperson, huh?
I'm going to message him. Jose, if you're listening to this, you're going to get a message on Signal to ask you whether you would be offended if I called something a Mexican standoff or not.
So, keeping in mind this is an entertainment podcast and we are here to proverbially, anyway, shoot the how's it going.
We're here to entertain. We're here
to entertain.
Shoot the how you're going, dude. What does that mean?
It was self-censoring and did a very poor job. Regardless, if debt gets cheaper, and this is stepping away from houses a little bit, in my experience in kind of collectible cars, toys get more expensive. When debt gets cheaper, people feel that they can afford more things: boats, toys, cars, trains, planes, automobiles, things like that. So houses aside, if you're looking at toys or things like that, it's something to keep in mind. When debt gets more expensive, people will sell those things off first to free up money for things that are more important. So like the E30 BMW market fluctuates with that pretty closely. Osman, if you at all get a bug to join me on the classic car world, just keep your eye out.
I mean, E30s are like the yuppie mobiles of the 80s, so I have a hard time wanting to be in the E30 world. And this is not a car podcast, Hamish. We're trying to, like, okay, right. You and I could easily go down this rabbit hole, but we're not going to do it. I will say, though, that it's not as simple of a picture as debt gets cheaper, because consumers are up to their eyeballs in debt. And there's also layoffs coming that seem to be at the highest rate in like a decade.
Since 2008, I thought.
I was going to say 08, and I chose a decade just to be conservative. I don't know if that's actually 2008 or not. I have not done the numbers myself, but that's what the word is on the street, is that layoffs are increasing at very high levels, and that creates uncertainty in the job market. And so people are hesitant, and hesitancy and fear causes inaction. And for big ticket items like houses, inaction means fewer buyers. Maybe we'll just rent another year, because I don't want to lock ourselves into a house with a 30-year mortgage when we're paying up to the eyeballs every month in that monthly payment, when I don't know what's going to happen with my job in 6 months. Let's just rent for another year. So that's the kind of mentality that could work the opposite way. And toys are the first things to go when people lose their jobs. They dump their toys. They take a loss. They will even, and bankruptcies are another indicator, and they're also higher. I think like 20%. I don't remember the data point. Maybe you can look this up, but bankruptcies are substantially higher as well recently. And so, conflicting stuff. We will see what the Fed does, and we will see how that impacts the 10-year Treasury, which is the closest parallel to the 30-year fixed rate. They tend to move very closely together. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Thank you for coming back and saving my tangent.
I just want to be clear that you had a good point, but there's a lot. It's a lot more complicated than what you shared.
A lot more nuance, yeah. And I'm drawing out the clock. We need to get a move on.
Okay, great. So let's move on to sales of the week. This is the sequence or segment of the podcast when we talk about closings that have recently occurred at particular price points or locations that illustrate market conditions. And we can't talk about active listings. I can only share my thoughts on those in our newsletter, because that's a private newsletter and the podcast goes to everybody. And the real estate rules that govern our industry say that you cannot discuss active listings publicly in a way that potentially can denigrate them. But I can talk about closed deals, and that's what we're here to talk about. We've got 5 of them for you. All of them are local here to Boulder. And our first one is 4932 Valkyrie Drive, and it is in a subdivision called Valhalla. And this subdivision is full of Scandinavian named roads. They are named Thor and Valkyrie and Valhalla and Odin. And it's a little pocket neighborhood just southwest. It's just southwest of the Boulder Res. Great spot if you go fishing or boating or utilize the Res for recreation. It feels very rural. The lots are huge. I think they're typically at least an acre. It was also built a long time ago, like in the 80s. And some of these homes have had some nice updates. Many of them have not been touched in many decades, if at all, since original construction. This one looks like a flip. It looks like the owner did a bunch of work to prep it for sale. Based on the photos, it's got lots of nice, clean, well-lit spaces. Of course, HDR photography, you can't really tell how brightly lit things are. Yeah. But it was owned by the seller for almost a decade. They acquired it in 2016 for just under 1.4, and it's a big house for Boulder standards, right? 6,000 square feet, 3-car attached garage, 1988 construction, 4 beds, 6 baths, and a nice big chunky basement, 2-story house, 2-acre lot. Like, all of these things check so many boxes for a lot of buyers, but you're also a little further out of town. You're not like in Newlands or Mapleton Hill. Like, you need to get into a car typically to do anything, like grocery shop. Although it's not really that far on a bicycle, but it might feel like that. You're also possibly subject to some plane noise because the airport's not that far away. And that road also turns to dirt a little further to the north, so I don't know if that's a factor or not. And I don't think wreck on the res would be annoying, although I suppose the power boats occasionally could be annoying.
But, yeah, I think distance-wise you might be okay.
I think it's fine. I don't think that would bother me, but I guess it would depend on... I mean, I haven't lived close enough to the res to be annoyed by the boats. And I have been in other places, including New Zealand, where the boats were so loud that it was like, are you kidding me? Like, why are these boats so loud? And there aren't a lot of standards for boat noise.
No.
So I think, just like there aren't any real standards for general aviation noise, so I think you might just be, and you could beep this out, Hamish, you might just be shit out of luck. And please do beep that so we don't lose our whatever. Like, seriously, YouTube will ding us if it.
No,
if we
I know.
have
I'm
profanity.
laughing. Like, thanks
All right,
for
I'm
giving
just
me the edit.
reminding you to beep us out. So this listing hit the market in March of this year at 3.2. It was then withdrawn in May without any real reason for it to obviously be withdrawn, and they refreshed the listing. So the day it was withdrawn, another listing appeared, and they cut the price to just under 3. And then they kept it on the market another 4 months, and then it went again. They refreshed it a third time. So this refresh pattern is, in my opinion, is not really necessary. We have done it too, but I don't. It's like it doesn't really fool anyone. I guess it also doesn't necessarily hurt you. So we have that conversation with our sellers. Do you want to refresh? If we refresh, we really want to do seasonally appropriate photos at a minimum and a new price. In this case, they went with a new price, the first refresh, dropping it to below 3. But the second refresh, they kept it at 3. And it sat on the market for another 45 days. It went under contract at the beginning of November. November 7th, it went under contract, and it just closed. Typical deal timeline from under contract to closing, about 30 days over Thanksgiving, and it sold for 2.85. So the buyer got themselves a nice juicy 150 grand off from the list price. I think it's a great house, other than I wonder how flippy it was. Like, it just looks... It looks like the seller did a bunch of things to flip
One
it.
to note, the picture of the bathtub, the 2 lights above it are slightly offset. They're not at the same height. And I was like, oh, is that maybe an artistic detail? But it's so subtle, it's not. See if I can...
I guess what's your point with... So, you're talking about the primary bath photo?
Yeah, the bathtub.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
I would have to get a little line out to see. Like, you look at the line. I mean,
it could be a distortion, but from my eye,
it could be. What if it's just a wide-angle lens that is held
maybe,
slightly
and then
off?
the distortion correction's a little funky. Yeah.
Well, yeah, or the camera was slightly off, was not perfectly level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm not convinced. I think it's a flip, based on what it looks like inside. And if you're buying a flip, be really careful and make sure that you do your homework on the quality of the work and who did the work. Because as you recently discovered, Hamish, cheap flips, you discover years later the shenanigans that went into their construction.
Yeah. Man, that might be a carve-out for later, too. Let me write that down.
Our next one is 768 Bridger Point in Lafayette. This is in the Indian Peaks neighborhood. It's built around a golf course. The neighborhood was constructed in the late 90s and early 2000s. Most of the homes have not been updated since that time, or if they have, they've got very superficially updated. And this is a pretty sizable home, 7,000 square feet, 3-car attached garage, 5 bedrooms, 6 baths, and sitting on not a large lot, 15,000 square feet. But a very good location. It looks like it has views of the course, and it's really in the middle of the neighborhood, so you probably are not going to get much traffic noise at all. The one thing with golf course neighborhoods is you have to think about how the fairway plays, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't look at the layout of the course, you could easily find yourself in the firing zone of golf balls flying at you. And usually walking around the outside of the house and looking carefully for signs of golf ball damage is a must when you're thinking about this type of property.
I was with some buyers, a little while ago, and there was a home that had some nice little golf ball sized dents around it. And mismatched windows, different vintage of windows throughout the house.
That will also tell you that there's been a lot of damage. So this house had some updates, like the primary bath looks like it has been updated, but the kitchen, maybe the countertops, but not the tile. Like it's a hodgepodge of maybe updates. I think mostly it wasn't updated, but it had some cool things like a home theater. And it's a very traditional looking house. The era of the construction, though, suggests it's probably EFIS, exterior finish insulation system, which you really want to look closely at to make sure that you understand what you're buying, because EFIS, if it's not well maintained, can result in rot behind the siding. And it's quite often that people have no idea that they needed to even maintain EFIS. And rewrapping, or it's not just rewrapping, dealing with the structural damage from EFIS can be really expensive, like 6-figure or more. Well, I guess it's still, I haven't seen 7 figures, but I've seen, well, actually, no, our office complex was 7 figures.
Oh, I mean,
EFIS.
yeah.
But the standard house is typically not, but there's a lot of shady characters in the EFIS mitigation business. But it's sort of funny, the house, right? Like, it looks like some things they updated, but then they left, like, the cruddy looking tile. Like, the tile looks original, but the stove doesn't. Like, I don't know. It's such...
Yeah. Finishes aside, one of the things we noted when we checked out that other home on a golf course is I'm pretty sure you're restricted on your fence height. So you can't really build in privacy if you're backing to the green, to my knowledge.
It's not just restricted on height, it's restricted on what the fencing material is. So in most neighborhoods of this vintage, you cannot create privacy fences. You have to, you need to chicken wire them if you have a pet that you're worried about escaping, but the fences are just visual demarcations of the lots, and they're not even always accurate for that.
So, and to this house's credit, the hot tub is sunken, and it looks like out of view from the green. Because that, personally, I'm not interested in hot tubbing in front of the golfing community.
Why not, Hamish?
A later date. I'll explain.
You never know who you'll meet that way.
Why not, Austin?
So listed at 2.4 in October. Not a great time to list. And it sat there for a few weeks. Eventually, there was a buyer about 3 weeks into the listing that jumped into it, almost a month into the listing, and they acquired it for 2.3. It just closed yesterday. So this is, I think, a fantastic house. And I think it sold at a reasonable price for how big it is, and for its view corridor into the golf course. People pay a premium for that. It creates a sense of spaciousness. It's not just for the golfing community, and it typically holds its value better to have it be directly adjacent and then westward facing, with multiple windows throughout the house facing to the west and showing the beautiful landscape and the mountains. It's why people move here. And, this type of house would appeal usually to, like, a large family.
Yeah, very well.
All right, our next listing that recently closed, sale of the week, 2085 Alpine Drive. And the technical name of the subdivision is Hillcrest, but I always think of this particular part of Boulder as the Alpine Balsam Peninsula. And it comprises Alpine Drive, Balsam Drive, and Panorama. And if you look at it from a geologic perspective, it seems to be a continuation of Valmont Butte. Like, there's this kind of hill that cuts across Boulder east-west, and then it dips down, and it's pretty much flat through parts of Boulder. Then it pops back up again out towards Valmont Butte on the east side of Pearl. So this particular spot I've always called the Alpine Balsam Peninsula. I've sold homes up here, one on Panorama that had unbelievable views, and also taught me that the view quality varies house by house. And the ones on the inside of the circle often don't have a view, but not always. It depends. And if you don't look at each of the comps or have detailed knowledge of the comps, you could be quite fooled by valuation, right? If you're on the outside with killer views, add $1 million at least to the value of the home, because this spot is so desirable. It is an easy strolling distance to downtown Boulder. You can also very easily get over to Ideal, and it doesn't get the random foot traffic that you'll get throughout much of downtown. So there's a sense of a better sense of privacy. I'm not going to say an amazing sense of privacy, but a better sense of privacy. 2085 Alpine was built in 1952. It's a small house, only about 2,200 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. It's a 2-story property, and we saw it with clients multiple times over the summer. It was originally listed in June, on June 19th at just under 1.8, and by the end of July they cut the price 50, not even 45.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. It went under contract on September 20th, and it closed just a few days ago on December 3rd for just under 1.7. So about $100,000 below the original list price, about $55,000 below the last list price. And for this neighborhood, which has $3, $4, and $5 million homes in it, to get a functional house at 1.7 is quite phenomenal. But this house didn't have the views. And because of its location on the corner, it also seemed to have a bit of a privacy issue. Like the backyard was very tight. And I have this memory of it also being AstroTurf. So narrow backyard, and AstroTurf. And
low maintenance.
Sure. Super low maintenance. Lovely neighbors, by the way. We met them multiple times, and they were super friendly. And that was really a positive to the house. And some of the updates were really nice, too. The woodwork was really nice. There was sort of a drop down into kind of a narrow sunroom thing going on that felt a little weird. A little broken up, a little choppy. 4 bedrooms on the upper level, 2 bedrooms on the main, 2 bath total, and a 2-car detached garage. Our clients seriously considered writing an offer on it because the location, despite its lack of privacy and narrowness of the lot, was still very cool to be in this part of town. But I think that one of the reasons that they may have decided not to go after it was that it also is probably maxed out. Like, there's not a lot of potential here for increased valuation. Like, it's nicely updated already, and it's struggling to sell because of its lack of privacy and its diminutive size compared to some of the neighbors. And they got the feeling that, at least our clients, I felt like they got the feeling, right? This is my read of it, that they might be the only really young family in the neighborhood. And that was kind of a turnoff, too, because if you're in your 30s and everyone else is in their 60s, like, it just doesn't feel like you're going to be that close to some of the neighbors. And buying real estate is very emotional. I like the house, and I think it's an interesting data point for inside of the Alpine Balsam Peninsula and lacking privacy. And it did sell for a bit of a premium to, say, a home in South Boulder that would have been in a similar 50s era rancher with an second story addition that was put in at an undisclosed time. Cool house. My guess is the owners are probably not going to occupy it full time. It's probably something that's like a granny, kind of situation, grandparent situation, where they bought it to be close to their kids. They occupy it for a few months a year, and then most of the rest of the time it's rented to friends and family, kind of situation.
I think they really should have chose a different paint color before they listed it, and I wonder if that played a role in it going for what it did, because I see that color and I think outdated. I might not even click on the interior photos, and the interior is great, but that shade of yellow is just, to me, old. Something modern, maybe a little bit darker, a little bit more eye-catching, would have made probably a larger difference.
I can't agree with you more, and it would have cost them $12,000 maybe to paint it a compelling color. And there's no contrast, right, between the windows and the walls, and it's an outdated, boring color. So I suspect a lot of people didn't click on it. Versus if it was a high contrast white on black, or God forbid, I'm not a fan, but they sell black house. It makes it look way more modern, and it just looks really dated on the outside. I mean, 100%
it really does.
Valid.
Yeah.
Yep. Valid point.
And it's I'm stoked you brought up location, because that's not on, but they can still get views there on that side of the street, I guess you were saying. Not really.
I mean, I think you're just going to be jealous forever of your neighbor's views. Like,
you're
if
in
you
the
get a
shadow
view,
of
it's
the...
like this tiny, like you could, if you bend
glimpse.
sideways and can't crank your head at just the right angle, you might see the flat iron. But you're going to be looking through your neighbor's trees, right? Like, it's the kind of neighborhood where you wish you could have afforded that really high end view that's one house away.
Definitely, you're just going to be in that shadow, proverbial shadow, the whole time.
Yep.
Anyhow.
All right, our next listing, 5285 Gallatin Place in Arapahoe Ridge. I think Arapahoe Ridge does not get as much attention as it deserves. It's undervalued for what you get because the house sizes are fairly decent. True, they're older, right? Late 70s, early 80s. But it's way more spacious than most of South Boulder in terms of its layout. And it has a pocket park. In fact, we have a whole video about Arapahoe Ridge and all the reasons you might want to consider living there. And for 1.3, this house strikes me as a bit of a value. 3,700 square feet, 2-car attached garage, and a decent location within the neighborhood. It is, and it's even south facing, which means the ice and snow are going to melt off your driveway really easy. It's not quite as walkable to retail, like the more desirable retail, like the kind of neighborhoody retail doesn't really exist. It's more of just a big shopping plaza, and Arapahoe is a total zoo.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's so busy, and it's going to get even busier as time goes on, as they continue to build out East Boulder. So that's kind of a bummer, but it's deep in the neighborhood, so I don't think you're going to hear much traffic noise. So overall, I think this is kind of a B+ location. And a fairly decent functional family house with the right layout, right? 3 bedrooms on the upper, 3 bathrooms, 2-car attached garage. That checks the boxes for most people. Reasonably sized, 3,700 square feet. But when you look at the house itself, it's let me open it up and make sure I got it right. When you look at the house itself, it suffers from the exact same thing as the last one, a dated exterior paint color, which would have cost very little to fix. But the interior, you know, it's not horrible. Like some of the things are weird, like that bright, well, that's not bright, but that red backsplash is kind of a strange choice. And that also is cheap to
kind of
fix.
leans a little bit dated as well, those colors.
Chisel that out and put in some white tile, even though that's kind of a dated look, but put in a brighter, whiter color, and it would have popped so much more. And unfortunately, I really don't like painting brick. But the truth about it is that spray painting that white would have made it look way more modern. Or even black. Some people even spray paint black. Go ahead.
I think there's a brick-specific paint that breathes, because if it doesn't, then the brick like rots.
Okay.
And that's a due diligence item. I'm going to investigate before I speak out of myself a bit too much. But I've started to see some houses are rotting underneath their painted brick.
Well, I have heard that painting brick's not a great idea. And I did hear that various concerns for it, that it'll peel off very quickly, but I've not heard that it actually causes brick to rot, because how's the moisture getting into a baked brick?
You think of these like bricks have like the weep holes. And
that's the mortar that has weep holes.
Yeah,
some
between
places,
the brick, right?
But not everywhere. It only has weep holes usually at the bottom layer and under windows and stuff. Like I'm not an expert in this.
That. Me
even
either.
after
but
20
I've seen
plus years.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that there is a paint specific for brick. And I guess we should do some more homework on that for another pod on paint specific.
Yeah, that's a good one.
For brick paint. Because I have heard that through the rumor mill, but I'm not, it's not an area of my expertise, believe it or not. Don't know.
That's a contentious enough topic too. It's probably a pretty good one for us to cover.
Maybe. Yeah. I like this house. I think it was it would have made for a very attractive acquisition, and it was listed on. I mean, it was a little overpriced, so this is the thing, right? Like they listed it really high at the beginning of the year, 1.639, and what happened this spring and summer, I think, caught a lot of agents off guard. The comps likely supported that price, but it didn't move, and after a few weeks, the seller cut it. 40 grand, and still nothing happened. The listing was refreshed. Another 50 grand below, nothing happened. And then they kept chasing it down to 1.5 by July. And then by October, they were into fire sale land. They were like, let's just cut it really hard. At least the seller listened to their listing agent, and they cut it to just under 1.4. And even then, it took a couple of weeks, 3 more weeks before, a little over 3 weeks before it went under contract, and it sold for 1.31. I will give kudos to this agent. We've done multiple deals with him in the past. I'll say his name because I think he's very competent. Eric Boy at Compass.
Oh, yeah.
And he's super professional, super knowledgeable. And that's really refreshing given the spectrum of quality of agents in this town. If we weren't in the business, he's somebody I would consider recommending, but we recommend ourselves if you're looking for an agent, right? Because we try to do better than our colleagues, but you can't, you could do worse than Eric. Eric's a solid agent, and we really appreciate every deal we've worked with him on. Yeah. They have been very professional. And I think that comes from his years and years in this industry, also as an employing broker. Like, he's seen things, and most employing brokers spend their time cleaning up the mess of rookie agents. So when you're an employing broker of a large office, you've cleaned up a lot of messes, and you've seen it all, I'm sure. So anyway, interesting deal. It sold for a lot less than the original list price, but at the end of the day, I think they got caught in the market downdraft. And if you could buy houses like this in Arapahoe Ridge at 1.3, I think that's, if my old stock market analyst wants to put a strong buy on the neighborhood, like, that's a good value.
Kramer buy.
Right, no. Not a Kramer buy. Whoa. Stop.
You've
right
seen
there.
Like the inverse Kramer performs really, really well.
No, I've not seen that, but Kramer is a television clown, theatrical personality.
Super.
There are lots of more competent people than I would much prefer to be associated with than Kramer. Hey, man, you're getting demerit for even suggesting Kramer.
Man. Okay.
All right, let's move on to our last one. 4293 Graham Court. And this is in Martin Acres, a neighborhood we know and love. And the thing about Martin Acres is that it's bounded on three sides by really busy roads. You've got US 36 to the north. To the south, you've got Table Mesa Drive, and to the west, you have South Broadway. And late at night, you get motorcycles racing up and down US 36. You get buses going up and down Moorhead. Moorhead, they've done some things to fix it by taking away the yellow lines and putting in speed bumps. All of that helps calm the traffic on Moorhead.
Driven... Oh.
Go ahead.
Having driven on Moorhead, that is super improved. Like, you feel incredibly guilty and bad if you even go beyond 25. But yeah, 36 persists. Just beyond that.
It used to be a speed zone, and they used to have the gray Toyota Sienna van busting people with the automated tickets at the end of Moorhead because everyone would speed on it 35, 40 miles an hour. And I was a little bit, skeptical when I saw the yellow line was going to be removed. But it works. It turns out that you remove the yellow line and people feel very uncomfortable psychologically speeding at another car that doesn't have a yellow line. So that there's no division, right? And so people have slowed down dramatically on Moorhead. I drive it way slower than I used to. But this particular house is still way too close to US 36. And I have a distinct memory of it going through a very big remodel a few years ago. I'm not going to pull up its permit history, but you can look at the photos. It's not in bad condition. It looks like it needs a repaint. Like, since the remodel, you can see that the front facing the covered patio, like, that needs paint. Like, it's dry. And I remember it being pretty jet black. This is the risk of black paint, by the way. But you look at the interior, and it looks reasonably updated. And then you look at the other stats of this house, right? It's a 6-bedroom, 3-bath, classic Martin Acres ranch, 2,800 square feet total, with 1,400 above grade. This one was originally built in the 60s and has a 2-car attached garage. And whoever did the remodel reconfigured it to being 3 bedrooms on the upper and 3 in the basement. So they just added 3 bedrooms in the basement, which, in such close proximity to CU, screams that this is going to be full of students, right? It's a 6-bedroom house. Kids don't care about their proximity to US 36. They could sleep through anything, especially their alarm clocks. So I think that that's likely the story of this house, who bought it, although we don't know who actually bought the house. I'm just guessing, because most families are probably not going to want to be on the corner of Moorhead and Graham Court, and also can hear the traffic noise from US 36. We would have advised our buyers to not buy this house. In fact, we would have advised them not even to go see this house, because if you see it, you're going to realize it's beautifully updated inside. Yes, it needs a paint job on the outside, but somebody spent a lot of money updating it. And now you can buy it at, frankly, what seems like a bargain price. So the seller acquired the house for, drumroll, they bought the house in 2022 for $998,000. And that's October 2022.
Oh, yeah.
That's about 6 months, maybe 4 months after, no, about 6 months after the peak. The peak frenzy was March, April of 2022 on a dollar per square foot basis. And so the prices were still really elevated, and the buyer got the house for just under $1 million. Okay. And since then, the market has skidded sideways and down, but not usually in this price point. Under $1 million, basic houses that have been updated shouldn't really have lost value. And this one sold for basically $1,000 more than, or $2,000 more than the seller paid for it 3 years ago. And that means they almost certainly incurred about 6% loss in commissions. So there's 60 grand transaction costs, plus the cost of title insurance, plus the cost of closing, plus who knows how many months we can tell you how many months it took. So it took a long time. They originally listed it in May for 1.15, and then they started playing the let's guess the price in June. They cut it to 1.1, then they cut it to $1,075,000, then $1,050,000, and then down to $1 million by August. And there it sat in August at $1 million. They weren't cutting it any further below it because sellers are psychologically damaged. What's the word? They are psychologically resistant to listing a home and accepting a price below what they paid for it. It is really painful to go below what you paid for it. And that was their break point.
Yeah.
They stayed at just under $1 million, and then somebody came in and they sold it for the price. They said, that's it. That's the price. I'm not discounting it any. And they took it because, frankly, I mean, it might be a good deal provided it wasn't in this bad location. I would not have bought it. And if you're going to buy it, you're going to know, you should at least know that you're going to be in the same kind of pain point when you go to sell it. So don't expect it to really appreciate very much, if at all. It's going to skid sideways, maybe track inflation. And then the seller did give up another $9,000, some sort of concession. It's not disclosed what the concession was for, likely inspection related. It could also have been a buy down on the rate, unclear what that was for. But that's the deal. So cool little Martin Acres ranch. Probably a good buy for somebody whose kid's going to be at CU for 4 years, or they have multiple kids coming through, or they just want to be a CU slumlord and have a lot of student turnover, because it's a great spot for students. Look, I know people that own homes on Moorhead that are on the other side,
killer spot,
that are even busier, with the highway literally in their backyard, and they are such cash cows because of their proximity to CU, and they got them for like a song and a dance 20 years ago, because even then the prices were so much lower than the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't have bought this one. I think it's just problematic. The location is just problematic. So there you go. 4293 Graham Court. That's the last sale of the week. And let's move on, Hamish.
Speaking of investment properties.
All right, so this is a short little segment on shameless self-promotion for one of House Einstein's favorite clients.
The very best.
And most reliable clients. And most committed.
The very favorite. Yeah.
Deeply committed to our brokerage. Will never, ever consider switching. And that's me. I am out there on the hunt for a potential short-term rental property in Winter Park. And Winter Park is more amenable to short-term rentals than most of the other resort mountain towns. If only the Wagon Road and the Needles Eye Tunnel was open, you could literally go off-road and cut over the mountains and get into Winter Park. It's physically very close to Boulder, but because of the highways, you've got to, because of...
Is it through I-70?
You have to go by 70 and all the way around. So it takes a while to get there, but you could get there really fast if it wasn't for Boulder County blocking access through the Needles Eye Tunnel. I have an old video, Hamish, on my personal YouTube that is a half-hour discussion, maybe an hour discussion on that topic. Boulder has successfully...
Do you want it linked?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll look at it. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'll send it to you. So Winter Park makes a lot of sense to me because it's a very attractive short-term rental market. It has stuff going on. It doesn't have the charm of Breck. It also doesn't have the polish of Vail and the price points of Vail. So acquiring a 2 or 3 bedroom property that would rent really well and that the numbers work would be vital to making this investment make any sense. And I think it would help diversify my real estate portfolio. So I'm on the hunt. And I started this process by reaching out to a listing that's been on the market a long time and owned by the realtors who are selling it, who bought it like 2 years ago. And they have it listed at $100,000 below what they paid for it. And they were marketing I'm not going to mention the address, but they were marketing the rental potential and talking about how much rent they've generated in the last 12 months and how much rent they have locked in with bookings for the next 3 months. And so I messaged them. I said, okay, can you send me like more details? And
Operating
they did.
costs.
I asked them for an income statement. And they replied with just a breakdown of where the revenue is coming from. Like this much is coming from Airbnb, this much is coming from bookings.com or whatever. There's a whole bunch of different sites they're using to self-manage. And so I messaged them again. I said, clearly they don't know what an income statement is, so let me try again. Can you send me the expenses that you incur? And so they sent me some, but they were missing others. And so I messaged them a third time. Can you include all of the expenses like your insurance and your advertising costs? And so they did. And then I dumped it all into my financial model. And I can't get this property to cash flow even at like 50% down based on what they are projecting for rent. And they're already losing $100,000 on it. So I'm not going to go see it. I told them if the numbers don't work, I don't need to go see it. Like there's no point in me. Yeah, well, they're not going to show up. It would just be me. But it would be, what's the point of going all the way to Winter Park to look at something that's a bad investment? It's a way to lose money. I mean, I can see it making sense if like you've got like kids that are going to go skiing there all the time and you need a place for them, like they're professional skiers or they're really into the sports. Maybe you can get that to pencil out. But as a pure investment, it doesn't pencil out at all. It's generating rent that's closer to what you might see for rent here in Boulder for a long-term rental, not a short-term rental. Like the numbers are just absurd. So I'm still on the hunt. And the shameless self-promotion is that if you own a Winter Park short-term rental that you would like to divest and you know the numbers actually make sense, I can assure you I'm a well-qualified investor and I'm very interested. So reach out and probably need to keep the price point. Probably needs to be under $1 million. But I guess it would depend on how well it performs as an investment. So don't hesitate to reach out and we can have a conversation. And that's our shameless self-promotion, Hamish. For
our favorite,
podcast.
Best-looking client.
Client with the shortest hair.
I think so, currently. Anyhow. News, yeah?
I just shaved my head. I should definitely be close. Okay, let's talk about the news, and then we're going to hit carve-outs and wrap up the pod.
Yep. First things first, UC Boulder's economic outlook. Aren't these just college students?
Why don't you read? You chose this one, Hamish. Why don't you walk us through it?
I did.
Would you rather I do?
I'm not very familiar. I guess UC Boulder releases
we call
their
that
economic
CU.
outlook.
We call that CU here, Hamish.
Yep. I suppose they release their outlooks every year or so. My takeaways is that Colorado's economy, from a GDP perspective, is growing roughly 2% per year after adjusting for inflation. However, there's kind of like a divergence between the employment rate. The article kind of goes on to speculate, employers may be getting more productivity out of the employees they currently have, and so not really looking for more. And there were two sectors that it mentioned. I believe it's IT and, let me see if I can find the other one.
IT has been on a downward trajectory since 2022.
Professional and business. Yeah, professional and business and IT. Professional and business helps
services.
Colorado's... Yeah, professional and business services. Thank you, Oz.
Services.
Helped Colorado's economy outperform since the Great Recession. However, They're expected to shed jobs, and IT as well is slowly kind of cutting their workforce too. The theory being there was a lot of overhiring during COVID, when cybersecurity and other kind of remote services were in more demand, and we're kind of seeing an adjustment from that. But it was, I'm like pro Colorado, baby. I live here, so it's cool to see that our GDP appears to continue to outpace inflation. 2% ain't nothing.
Well, okay,
yeah,
so
we'll
this
see.
this report's put together by Leeds, right, which is the business school at CU, and supposedly they have a panel of experts. And this article's in the Denver Post, so we'll provide a link to it. Panel of experts, honestly, like economists are the worst at being remotely accurate with their predictions. So I always take economist predictions with a massive grain of salt. Like, okay, if nothing weird happened, maybe this is what would occur. But black swans explain more in my mind of what happens in the world than just extrapolating the trend line. But
Right.
with that said, it's important to understand the base case, and their base case is, sort of measured growth next year, 2.9%, and that's on the back of 2% this year. So that's not 2.1% this year and 2.2% the previous year. So they're actually forecasting accelerating growth, but then they're warning us that IT and business and professional jobs, service jobs, are expected to flatline and decline. Like, we're losing those jobs. And those are high-paying jobs, right? They're $137,000 a year for professional and business services, $157,000 a year for tech jobs. So some people are going to hear this as a plus, right? Like, the higher-paying jobs are going away, but the population is still expected to grow. Some of that is natural growth rate. So, and unemployment is expected to fall. Like, these are interesting stats. None of it likely is going to be as accurate as economists would wish it were. I think the big picture is Colorado is still incredibly attractive as a place to live. And you're seeing sort of post-COVID bounce back of people that left places like California and went to like Austin. Like, I know there's a lot of people pounding the table and saying, well, look, at rents have gone down so far and real estate has dropped so much because of increased supply. It's also dropping because Austin is not as attractive as a place to live as people thought, right? Like, it's hot and it's buggy, and it's like, where's the open space mountains that you got if you move to Colorado? Colorado is still extremely attractive, and despite taxes going up and more people living here, and congestion and all those things, Colorado is still a great place to live. So I guess, this is interesting. And the takeaway for me is nobody really knows. If you just extrapolate the trend line, it looks like we could have a stronger economy than last year, but we'll see.
Yeah. They extrapolate the trend line. They're not like looking at like policy changes and industry changes.
Of course they are.
Things.
They're looking at all those things. Yeah.
I'm like, how strong are their blinders? I'm wondering, because, right, like 2.9% is optimistic.
Well, 2.9% is also an increase from last year.
Yeah.
Like, and that the headline of this article, okay, now this is like such a clickbait BS headline.
Buzzword bingo.
Yeah, well, it's like designed to encourage you to click it, right? Our economy's driving with the fog lights on. What does that mean? Higher tariffs, slower migration, missing data, clouds. Like, missing data isn't clouding our outlook. It's just we don't have the data and even if when you had great data...
to be fair, you take the data to make a stronger prediction. But...
Okay. All right. Fair. Oh, okay, fair, good
but
point.
No, I'm
good
with
point.
you. Like, I like the fog lights personally because it's driving into 2026 with the hazards on.
I would look at things differently, right? If you are relocating a company, like Giant just announced they're relocating to Boulder. If you are thinking about starting a company and you also value the quality of your lived experience, there are very few places like Boulder. And you can build a company in lots of cities around the country for far less in your cost of living, but can you experience our proverbial 300 days of sunshine, our world-class open space, our world-class cycling routes. It's just, we have an amazing state, and we need to protect it better, to be quite honest. But it still is a very attractive place to be. And these sort of, if there are hiccups in a 1 year or 2 year period, those are hiccups that could be exploited for your opportunity to invest in a better house, a better business park location, a better retail location for your coffee shop. Like, if there are downturns, those downturns typically are short, and unless our politicians really screw this up, it's really hard to destroy this giant, beautiful donut of open space in Boulder in particular. So I think we're going to be just fine in this nothing burger of the economy is going to skid sideways, don't really know article. It's interesting to see the data. I want to know who the experts are, and I want to see their track record from last year. Is it?
Oh, shoot.
All right. Well,
Maybe.
I don't want to see.
Anyway,
I don't want to see it that bad.
Not right now.
All right, let's talk about the Dark Horse. That's our next news article. None of this is news that the Dark Horse is being demolished, and it seems like there's some pressure to get the demolition done before the end of the year. I don't entirely know why. It might have something to do with new regulations that go in play at the beginning of the year for demolition. This article, we could tear it apart, but I really would rather just focus in on this dive bar. Has been around a long time. It means a lot to the community, but it also, most of the community doesn't go to this dive bar. I've been there many times.
Yeah, that's true. It's more of like a...
It's like a nostalgic
experience.
feeling. It's like a yearning for Boulder used to be, but yet we need more housing, and it's in a location that is aesthetically not particularly pleasing anyway, right? Like, it's shoved into the corner between Baseline and US 36. Like, it's surrounded by highway. Like, all the bemoaning and crying about it, I kind of feel like I get, but people, I'm just going to sound snarky or something, but I'm going to say it. People need to get over themselves, right? Like, it's a dumpy dive bar surrounded by the highway. It had its time period. It's time to Marie Kondo that and honor its journey and let it go. Like, it no longer sparks joy. That's why you haven't been going to it for like a decade. Like, I've been there maybe a dozen times, maybe not even 6 times in 20 years.
3. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. It's a dive bar. It's quirky. It's interesting. It's fun. But it also isn't something really worth preserving. So anyway, the Dark Horse demolition may come sooner because there's this like rumor mill going that word on the street is that rushed demo was actually not actually real. Like, they're doing that for publicity and to drive people into the bar.
Well, you heard on the grapevine that they're going to be like relocating.
I can't say anymore.
A lot of the junk.
Stop. Stop. I have heard through the grapevine that the Dark Horse may have another home already planned, but it's not public, and I cannot share anything beyond that. Yep. Stop. Yep. That was shared with me. I'm
going to cut that. We can just move on. Yeah.
No, you can leave it because we didn't say anything.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. The final one is Xcel has proposed this article says 9% increase in rates to the Colorado Utilities Commission. And it is alongside 57 other utility companies in Colorado also asking for a rate. If you remember, Xcel, a rate increase. Yes, sorry. If you recall, Xcel also paid out, I think, $580 million to the Marshall Fire victims, and they are now trying to make up a $356 million shortfall in their, or not a shortfall, but just a $356 million rate increase. So we've been talking about utilities and prices and things. So.
You know, you're feeling smug about this because you have solar on your house now.
I didn't just want to make this about this, okay?
You don't just want to make it about this. You know what this article's about. Why you put this in here. I didn't. You just wanted to
you said it was a great idea to put it on.
I did, but I also knew why you were doing it. And that's because you just put solar on your house, and now you could, like, give me the I told you so.
Yeah, check.
I don't think that the relationship between the Marshall Fire lawsuit and their budget shortfall is the reason for it. Companies don't just... They have insurance
that's
to cover
a little too
liability. Yeah. They don't cover liability out of normal operating budgets for a lawsuit like that. They need to insure for that. So I doubt that's the reason for it. But of course they're going to stick us with higher rates. That's what Xcel does because it's the public utility. There's no competition for it. You have no choice. And their pricing model is cost plus. So they're driven to increase their cost base, right? Because that's how they make more money, is making things less efficient and costing more. And so that's how monopolies work. It's not a surprise. We do have some of the cheapest electric rates in the country, but I think that overall our electric costs are going to keep going up because of AI and because of how utilities have a monopoly. Like it's been the case for a long time, that monopoly. It's not going to change. And if you have the ability to put solar on your roof, you should consider it. Solar like panels are dirt cheap. The technology is dirt cheap. It's the regulations to install it that make things expensive. I have a friend that did their own solar. I mean, he is knowledgeable about solar systems, but he installed his own. It's doable.
Yeah, there's websites that'll help you on that side, and also a lot of the criticisms I hear is like, oh, their lifespan is only 10 years and stuff. It's just not true anymore. You can find YouTube videos of people showing their system year after year. I think Jerry Rig Everything has a video showing the production of a system and everything. And then there's also, and granted, this is for as long as the company is in business, but there are like 30-year warranties on panels and things like that. So give it a serious look. If you're a skeptic, give it a hard look.
Well, the other takeaway I have is that for AI to be not facing the crosshairs of politicians, they need to offset their energy consumption. And most tech companies are directly investing in energy production because they know this problem is a no-brainer. They're going to need a lot more power. And if they're just relying on the public utility company for that power, they're going to likely see...
They're going to come under fire quick.
Yeah, they're going to have people with torches. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that can barely pay their bills. And... a 10% rate increase is really painful on the back of the state like taking away natural gas as an option, which of course that's based on building. Yeah, it's based on building code.
Oh, that's right, with the new home electrification.
And right? here in Boulder, if you touch a gas line as part of your permit, that gas line's out of here. Like you basically, that's what a flipper told me, is why they're not moving the stove. Because if they did, they would have to get rid of the kitchen stove and go to a fully electric system, which, frankly, fully electric's better anyway, but some people have a very emotional reaction to the government taking away their ability to burn combustible fuels in their home. But that's what's happening. So, yeah. And gas and electric's getting more expensive. So it'll be very interesting. I did see there was a Reddit debate over heat pumps and how they're not efficient below a certain temperature. But that's old data. The new ones are way more efficient, and that there's a bunch of energy shills, gas company shills that are trying to spread disinformation. It's really weird that we can't get to the bottom line and the truth about things like heat pumps.
Oh man. Yeah, no, New Zealand, heat pumps have been like pushed since like I was there, like 2008 plus. But you didn't hear about them here in Colorado for a long time until they've now kind of broken through that low temperature threshold to where they still kind of make sense. But yeah, there's still a lot of old heads.
There are. Well, it's an old-fashioned idea, right? Like you want to see the flame cooking your pot, and yet induction is so much faster than natural gas in heating up water or cooking, and so much better like micro-level control, but the misinformation continues.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hit Carveouts, Hamish, and then let our poor listeners off the line. What are you talking about with creativity and balance of hobbies? This is a very... it's
set up for like a long, thoughtful conversation. But really it's, I think it's a conversation of burnout. Like if you only have one hobby, you have a free time to work on it, but spent too much on it and you'll burn out on it and you'll lose kind of the motivation or the excitement about it.
What are we talking about specifically? What hobbies are you getting burnt out on?
Not burnt out, but fostering the creativity side. So right now, I mean, if you guys have been listening for a long time, you know that I'm pretty dang broad in my hobbies, but it's like I like my video games to an extent. I'll feel pretty lazy if I spend too much time on them. I very much like videography and photography, and I also like cars, and I'm kind of delving into a tuning side of things for cars. But being that my line of work is video and photography, and Oz, you do a good job not giving me this pressure, and I also appreciate that you're working on your grip strength right now.
What? It's not a grip strength. It's a guitar.
Oh,
Hobby.
okay.
It's not grip strength.
Oh, I thought it was one of those grip strength things. But no, it's, like there's this kind of inherent pressure, because it's my line of work, to be like gung-ho obsessive on video and photography. And that only gets you so far. So it's this kind of understanding that I'm very privileged to work with you, Osman, and be in this field where it's encouraged for me to explore my photography and videography passion, not just in my own time, but while on the clock. And that frees up, but also lessens the pressure for me to have to do all my learning, say, off the clock. And so I'm able to balance hobbies better and keep the spark and the interest alive for my photo and video, and feed into other things. And I think it scratches different itches of my brain. And it's just one of those constant learning disciplines and learning how I operate as a person, and what gets me the growth that I want to see out of myself, and the skill set evolved. My 10,000 hours.
I thought you were going to talk about the artist's way.
No. I got it. I have not cracked it open yet.
Oh, you haven't even opened it. Oh, boy. All right. Well, yeah. I mean, we're lucky to have you at the brokerage, and I appreciate that you have a natural passion for videography and photography, and that's super useful for storytelling, which is what we do when we sell property. And generating leads and building relationships with prospective clients, buying and selling, is vital. And we do it in a completely original way, and all of our production is now almost entirely in-house, which is fantastic. Yeah. And that has to come from passion. If it came from, the whippings will continue until the morale improves approach to life, it would suck. And you could see how much our colleagues' stuff sucks when they're paying for it. Some of them pay a lot of money and they're still getting mediocre quality. And I really appreciate that you you have that actual passion. You and I share passion for photography and videography. We, to some extent, share the automotive stuff, although not nearly as deep. I used to be more into it, and now I think I'm at the tail end of my interest.
To my chagrin.
I'm not obsessing over it, to your chagrin. And I definitely don't share your video game hobby. Like, I feel like that just sucks the life out of time.
Oh, it will if you're not careful. Easily. Yeah.
So that's cool. I think it's great. And you got to balance those things. And I think you also need time off to foster creativity. You can't just crank it out. But you also need discipline. Right? There are times
it's this like triple Venn
diagram. You have to stop making excuses and just sit butt to chair and edit. And get out there and come up with a shot plan, even if you don't want to create a shot plan, or edit a staging consultation, which is on my plate. Like, there's all these things that people.
I was going to ask you about that.
I know that's this afternoon's mission. There are all these things that need to get done in our day to day that we don't always want to do. But when there's something as vital as content creation to our business, and that content creation is mostly visual, it's really important to find the right people, and you do have a passion for it. So I appreciate that about you.
Thank you. Very, very kind. Yeah. Speaking of this passion of videography and photography, I mean,
my Carveout's pretty slight, and that is, this is the off season, so we don't have as much workload, and I can kind of monkey around with video content, which I've gotten back into producing, and working with the equipment we have, which includes a couple of old vintage Nikon lenses that I've got adapters for to mount on Sony's and Canon's bodies. And it's really fun to work with old glass and then look at some of the reviews of the old glass and realize this glass is working exactly as intended. Like, I took some shots of there's a teddy bear that we got as a gift, and it's as part of a fundraiser for donating. You got this little teddy bear, and Shout out to Breakthrough, our a nonprofit that we
Oh, yeah.
support. And this teddy bear was my model yesterday as I monkeyed with this old vintage lens. And then I looked at the photos and I'm like, it's got this really creamy, like kind of ethereal look, and it's not super sharp. And I was like, that's really interesting. Like the modern lens would be so crisp, and you'd have to digitally soften it later. And this lens is doing it all optically. And then I looked at the reviews and I'm like, well, dang it, that's what this lens is known for, is the way that it's not sharp and creates this kind of like dreamy look. And it was it was a very popular lens in the 70s. So I've got two. I've got 55 millimeter and 105 millimeter Nikon lenses, and the 105 is like the holy grail of vintage lenses. It's the lens that was used to take the photo of the Afghan girl in National Geographic. There's this photo of people of a certain age. You can Google it. You can even put it on the screen, Hamish, if you want. That photo is so iconic, and it was taken with that 105 millimeter Nikon f2.5. And it just has a look that you can add filters, but they don't. If you really know what you're looking at, you realize that this is a very difficult look to replicate without a vintage lens. And there's an artistry to playing with it, to getting it right with a modern mirrorless camera. And these lenses are frankly cheap compared to modern glass. They're like $200. Like you're not talking about a 25. Most of our lenses start at $2,000. Like this is cheap. And it's just so amazing to play with.
Is it like manual focus only?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing. This lens is from
Which
the 1970s.
it turns people off, but you don't, you can get away with it.
What I find challenging is getting the focus right, because the little focus lines are really sometimes hard to see.
Focus peaking?
The focus peaking. It depends on the subject. Like like the bear, it was really hard to see where it was sharp because it was so subtle on the bear's fur. And even playing with it with my face and doing video, I'm like, I'm trying to hold this camera far enough away because I'm looking at a 55 millimeter and I've got an adapter, so it's probably like 80, and I'm trying to keep it far enough away, and then I'm like, wait, am I in focus? And I'll lean forward to look at, and then I'm not focusing.
And then you set it while you're leaning forward, and then
yeah. So it's really fun that way in terms of like playing with old glass and modern cameras. It scratches some sort of itch, just like my Airhead motorcycle scratches an itch, like my 1975. Vintage
cool.
There's something cool about vintage. There's a yearning for authenticity, I think, that's out there. It's why the hipsters are doing, the Instamatic cameras. They're like type. I guess I'm falling into this.
And Cream's coming back.
I have a typewriter back there, an electric typewriter. I have vintage lenses. I have an Airhead motorcycle. Like these.
I think
are
you're
really,
okay, man.
I'm not sure what's next. That's old. That's cool. That I'll be getting into. But watch out.
Mercedes, old classic Mercedes.
I've already had them. So where we live really
been there,
limits,
done that.
That really limits the options up here because the dirt road, the bumpy dirt road, need 4-wheel drive. There's only really one Merc that works, and that's the G-Wagon, and I have a better version of that. So it's not a G-Wagon. I would never buy a G-Wagon. But
old classic appliances. I think the ammonia refrigerators are super efficient.
I'll look into that.
They explode, I think, if there's a leak.
Thanks for the suggestion. Thanks for
yeah.
All right, I think that's enough for the Carveout. And if you've gone this far with us, you've squandered another 2 hours listening to the House Einstein podcast. We deeply appreciate you taking time to join us today. And if you like the content, you can check us out at houseeinstein.com. You'll find our newsletter where we discuss active listings. You'll also find us on Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn and all of the others imaginable. X and Blue Sky, and of course Facebook and Instagram and all those things. So please come check out our stuff. We always welcome your feedback, your comments, and we'll catch you next time.